Perimeter and circumference looked at the outside of figures. Today we're going to look at the inside by looking at the area of circles. Just like circles had a special name with talking about the outside of it with the perimeter because you had to use the term pi, with area it's likewise. Pi has to be part of the formula. So I wrote this big on this board because it is a big deal. This is a formula that you need to know. Write it large on your notebook paper. Area equals pi times the radius squared. Now remember back to exponents, what you learned in 6th grade. Radius squared does not mean 2 times the radius. Otherwise we could have just written diameter. It's the radius times the radius. Radius being halfway across the circle. So here's some ways to see this applied. In the first example, we have a circle with a radius of 3 meters. So we put 3 in for r into that original equation. And like I said before, if you will write the formula each time you're working a problem, it helps to commit that formula to memory. So 3 squared is not 3 times 2, it's 3 times 3, which is 9. Pi, and I'm using 3.14 as the abbreviated form of pi, times 9 is 28.26, and rounded to the nearest tenth is 28.3 meters squared. It's meters squared because it was a radius of 3 meters, so it's meters times meters, which is meters to the second power. And with area, you're talking about the inside. We're wanting to know how many square units are used in that. For number 3, we're given a circle with a diameter of 8 inches. My formula uses radius, so I have to cut 8 in half, which is 4. So I put 4 into that formula. Pi times 4 squared. 4 squared is 16. Then pi times 16 is 50.24, which rounds to the nearest tenth to 50.2 inches squared. Here's a little bit more challenging example. Find the area of the shaded region. The shaded region is only 1/4 of that circle, so we'll find the area of the entire circle 4 and then find 1/4 of that. The formula, area equals pi r squared. The radius is 1.8 meters, so I put 1.8 in there. 1.8 squared is 3.24. Pi times 3.24 is 10.1736. Since we're not done, I'm not going to round it just yet. I'm going to wait till the end to see if there's any rounding that needs to be done. I want to find 1/4 of that. We know that of means multiply, and since I already have a decimal, I chose to turn 1/4 into the decimal of 0.25, so it's easy to put into the calculator, and it would have been more difficult to convert 10.1736 into a fraction. Another thing that you might have thought to do was to take 10.1736 and divide by 4, and that is just fine because dividing by 4 is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal 1/4. When I multiply those two, I get 2.5434, and rounded to the nearest tenth is 2.5 meters squared. Here are some problems for you to practice with. Pause the video and then compare with what I found. For practice A, using the formula area equals pi r squared, the radius is 5, so that's substituted in. 5 squared is 25, and pi times 25 is 78.5. It came out even, or not really even, but it came out to the nearest tenth, so I do not need to round it. Practice B, area equals pi r squared. Make sure that looks like an R there. There we go. That's going to be pi times the radius. Since the diameter is 20, the radius is 10, 10 squared. 10 squared is 100, and I didn't even have to use my calculator for that because the decimals just moved over 2 places on 3.14 to give us an area of 314 yards squared. Part C. A company is manufacturing jar lids. The radius of each lid is 3 centimeters. What is the area of one lid? Area equals pi r squared, so it's going to be equal to pi times 3 squared, which is pi times 9 because 3 squared is 9. That equals 28.26. Rounded to the nearest tenth is 28.3 centimeters squared.